Apologize, I was wrong.
No, we had a very interesting, 48 hours?
Yeah, interesting
Yeah,
48 hours.
yeah. So this all started with you posing a questionable Facebook account, right? And first, I want you to ask that question. We're going to talk about the responses to that question, just kind of touch on it a bit, and then we can go from there. So let's talk about this topic, and you all see the title, relationship requirements. But you could touch a bit about, you could talk about what your status that you put up, what it was.
All right. Now, in fairness to those who are watching and will not have seen the question posted or whatever, I am going to give the background, the preamble first, so that you can kind of understand why the conversation started to go the way they did. And the question was asked because in an earlier question a couple of weeks ago, I had asked what were the qualities people looked for in a partner. And
Right.
more than one lady said that a job was a requirement. So, on the back of that, and then because of my research and stuff like that, because yeah, I actually do a little bit of research, before you actually just turn up a couple of thoughts and drivel on social media.
uh,
Because of my research, I came across this question. I thought it'd be a pertinent question to put to the forum. I thought it'd be a question that would kind of get the discussion started. I, I kind of expected some pushback, but I really got a lot of insight. So let me just share the question. The question went, if your partner's financial security and stability is part of your criteria for qualification for a relationship, should your sexual history and body count be part of their criteria for the same relationship? No. I guess because I had prefaced everything by saying that the in an earlier question, people said a job. Lady said a job was a requirement. People then took it up and they ran with it, and everybody started from the point of view of, but if a woman wants a man for his money, then really and truly, a man should be expecting something in return from a physical standpoint. Um,
right.
I don't think many people give much consideration to the fact that it could go the other way and that a man could actually want a woman for her money. Um, and a woman then would have to be concerned with the man's body count. But
Mhm.
it launched off into a whole discussion. It got really, really intense in some spots.
Yeah.
And it opened up the discussion a little bit, but it also kind of, we got into a little bit of trolling and stuff like that too, which is not what we're intending to do.
Yeah.
This space that we are trying to create here, Neil, I don't think either of us approach it from the standpoint of looking to bash anybody or demean anybody. We're not looking to shame, insult, guilt trip anybody. We don't even need to be right. It's not about that. It's about generating the discussion so that men and women kind of get a greater understanding of where the other person is coming from. Because even though we relate to and we talk every day,
Yep.
I don't think we fully understand and grasp what it is somebody else from the opposite sex is actually looking for. So I interact with men every day. I mean, an all male group. I've been in a lot of all male groups down through the years from as early as primary school. And I know men talk. I played a lot of sports, play cricket, and I play basketball, play football. I know men talk. And I know a lot of men too feel as if their only place to talk, or at least to be heard rather, and understood, is within the confines of a locker room and a locker room setting. Because
Right.
I've sung with groups, and while that may not be a locker room per se, it is still very much a locker room atmosphere. If
Still
we perform
camaraderie.
it,
Still come.
yeah, it's still the camaraderie and stuff like that that you will find within a locker room setting. It's just that instead of sports is music, right? So men talk and relate within those spaces. They share with each other, they advise each other, and they do it in those forums because a lot of times they feel as if it's a waste of time talking outside of those forums, especially now in 2020, 2021, where we got buzzwords like patriarchy, misogyny, um, and now we're into cancel culture, and you really may have to kind of tiptoe around what they say in a public space. So I think we both had the idea to kind of create this space where we can share as men, discuss as men, relate to men, and also for women who want to have that discussion, who want to have that dialogue, that exchange. Shoot, the forum is open for you too. And you can come, you can share your views, we can listen to you. But within this controlled forum, I think it's a bit easier if we all approach it with a open mindset for everybody to kind of take something from this particular forum, as opposed to, because I watched the conversation yesterday, and I think I remarked to you, I thought it was very interesting how men's wants and what they were trying to bring over were pretty much dismissed a lot of times. And a lot of times, if they weren't even just dismissed, a lot of times they were actually insulted. They said that it's shallow is one word I heard. It's all shallow, chauvinistic,
Word.
superficial is another word that came over. So I was kind of looking forward to this discussion tonight because I felt, I was hoping that we'd have more females. I can't see the count, so you'd have to tell me. Hoping we have more
Yeah, we
females
got
come
20.
to the chat.
We just over 20 views, so 20
Okay,
viewers.
cool.
So
So I'm hoping that we have more people who will come in and contribute to the conversation, especially females, so that we can have a bit more discussion and they can see where we're coming from, because we men don't talk. People say that for years, men don't talk. And there's a reason men don't talk, because they feel like when they start to talk, we get into shaming, we get into insults, um, and there seems to
guilt.
be a reluctance, a lot of guilt. They need to be right. We call that the sign language. Um, so they feel like, you know what, I can't be bothered to try to push my point any further, to try to get off my point, because I'm not being heard. So I was just, to keep the peace,
Just hush my
let me
mouth.
just hush. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, you know, that's why I'm happy that we have a situation like this where we're able to discuss and we can still field questions from those who are watching online and stuff like that.
Right. So from my point of view, the so there's a difference between you and I, right? We are very like-minded. We've always had a very similar mindset, but our differences come where you are ready to, as they would say, push a button. You know what I mean? Like you have no problem in phrasing something to elicit
Respect.
discussion, and you almost force the conversation. It is funny because some of those responses we saw yesterday was a bit of, it was a poorly worded question, it was a poorly worded post, and that sort of thing. And I'm not gonna lie, it was a bit, I put the back foot. But the truth is, the funny thing is, and you touched on it a bit earlier, we don't um, we don't we don't just do things, we don't just say things. We don't like you. Okay, let me just first explain how our dynamic works for this podcast, right? Really and truly, we don't have anything scripted. We don't. The most we do is we say, all right, well, I messaged you on Sunday. What we talking about on Tuesday? And to be honest, we had this and another topic, but imagine the other topic was men's health, mental health, and that was preempted
By
for
this.
this. Yeah, by this. So yeah, it's just interesting because again, we don't just do things, we don't just say things. Everything is for a purpose. Granted, I did not talk to you in your post. That is your personal Facebook page, and you are drumming up conversation as you see fit. That was in place before this show, and hopefully it would remain in place regardless. But the truth is that people don't seem to understand that as much as that question seems very inflammatory, we would have done our research. Yeah. I talked to women that were married. I talked to women that were older. I talked to women that were younger. I talked to women that are single. I talked to women that were married. Talked to men, of course. And yes, it was a mixed bag, but generally what the consensus was there's they understood the question. Matter of fact, one of my female friends had no problem with how the question was worded. And she pretty much agreed with the fact that it is about the security and the stability you need to feel comfortable in a healthy and committed relationship. So essentially, yes, people look at finances versus body count, sexual partners, or sexual history. People look at that. Some people even took that to directly mean that it's a sexual transaction. Like ma want money, women want money, ma want sex, right? And some women were offended because it was implying, well, it was twofold. It was implying that women are essentially gold diggers, and men see women as sexual objects, right? No, that's a very general statement, and what we try to do is not go by general statements. I would say some men do those things, some women do those things, but generally this is not what that space is for. This space is for the discerning individual, the discerning adult that knows the importance of stability and security in a relationship. So I think we should deep dive into this. I was wrong.